Hello and welcome back to 128KB. We're in the room of the games because we have just finished playing Axiom Verge on the PS4.
I know, we have.
And it is awesome.
It is.
Awesome.
It's freaking amazing.
So giveaway, that's a spoiler for the video, so thanks for
watching.
End of
video.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.
For a bit more of a deep dive into this retro, not retro, Metroidvania classic, we're going to give you our thoughts on the gameplay, the mechanics, the story, and just the overall playability of Axiom Verge. And it is a thing of beauty.
Oh, it really is.
Yeah. What was your thoughts and feelings diving straight into it?
The first thing that really hit me, especially with the first scene that we saw, the first initial impact of the music, the atmosphere of the level, the initial storyline bit, which is only short, you're not sat there for ages reading through, but there is that initial thing. The first thing that hit me was, wow, this was one man that made this.
A one-person team designed the game from the ground up. All of the artwork, all the animation,
all the
music, the sound design, all the coding, and the story,
And I imagine he also single-handedly went to publish this.
Yes.
So all of those skills into one person is quite a feat.
It's sickening. Yeah. As someone that used to work in the games industry, as a sound designer and composer, I would have spent months just on that element, on the sound effects.
Just on that, yeah.
And for him to be able to do that alongside the whole game, incredible.
It is incredible.
And
it is.
We'll start with the sounds because it jumps at you straight away how good the soundtrack is.
Yes, yeah.
For the different areas, it gives perfect sense of atmosphere, of foreboding when it needs to be, of just outright cool when it needs to be.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
The sound effects, perfect kind of 16-bit throwback sounds. It's got that chip tune kind of feel to it.
Totally. Yeah.
Maybe a little nod to Mario here and there as well.
Yes, there is definitely I think it's the menu select sound, isn't it? That is definitely Mario getting a coin. 100%. I am very surprised Nintendo did not sue him or ask for a cease and desist to change the sound, because it's almost identical.
Yeah, it's very and it's obviously a little wink. It's a little
it must be. But I do want to say we're lucky enough to experience the sound in the best possible way, because we've got some beautiful speakers in here with a sub. It's not just playing it on your Game Boy with the rubbish little tinny speaker.
Yeah. We're in an acoustically treated room. There's a subwoofer, some really nice stereo speakers. It sounded full. It sounded awesome. But I would imagine it would carry over really well to the Nintendo Switch, which has quite good sound for a handheld.
Especially if you've got some headphones plugged in.
Oh, it sounds amazing.
And that's the thing, is if it sounds that good on such a professional setup, well, then you're guaranteed it's going to sound good on lesser, speakers as well. It's when you blow it up to the kind of setup we've got here and it sounds rubbish, then you're kind of it's going to sound rubbish everywhere.
True enough.
But there's that sort of reassurance there that just the sounds alone are worth playing this.
Quite often when modern games try to do that chip 8-bit or 16-bit throwback, it can feel a little bit derivative. It sometimes sounds a bit cheap.
Yeah.
This is the opposite of that. He's done it really well.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the kind of winks and nods to the past, the borrowing, this game does borrow a huge amount from Metroid, or Super Metroid mainly.
Yes, I totally agree.
The doors are the same, the animations when you travel between zones are the same.
The transitions,
the enemies are all kind of little winks and nods.
Almost identical.
It's a slug wherein it was like a weird hedgehog thing.
Yeah. And the upside down frogs that jump upside down, like anti-gravity frogs,
But with all of that said, with it obviously being a pastiche of Super Metroid.
Yeah, great word.
It doesn't feel like a copy. It doesn't feel cheap because of it. It actually feels nostalgic and cool and unique at the same time.
Yeah, it's like a true homage, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of worthwhile. It's not like they've just cheaped out and done this. It's I see why you've done that.
Yeah.
And it works.
Really well.
It really does.
It's definitely exciting for anyone that's interested in Metroidvania games at all, especially those waiting for Dread to land.
Best time to launch number 2. I know we're talking about the first game here, but they've just launched Axiom Verge 2, and again that's that perfect stopgap with Dread coming out in a month and a half.
October time, isn't it?
October, beginning of October. It's that great time to pick up these 2 games now and play them before you get to Dread.
Yeah,
because it's really along that style.
Onto the kind of the gameplay experience, the user experience, the quality of life, and the controls. First of all, how did you find a game that is based in that D-pad era on DualShock controllers?
Yeah, it worked perfectly. Yeah. Like they really sussed the controls out because again, like this kind of game screams D-pad. Like you need to use that for me at least to be accurate. Yeah, because there's time and a place for control sticks, joysticks, but this ain't necessarily one of them. Yeah. But what I loved is the fact that they'd kept your movement with your D-pad, but then you could actually select your weaponry, your upgrades for your weapons with the right control stick, and that's so close to like where you're going to press jump and stuff. It was very quick and natural to go, oh, actually I want to quickly change my weapon. You're not getting off of like your directional D-pad to then stop moving to then select a weapon. Do you know what I mean? It's very natural in the flow of being able to move.
I'll say one thing for anyone that's not played this yet, that has played some of the older Metroids. It's a lot more complicated in its control mechanics. Not necessarily the jumping or the shooting, but the sheer number of controls.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of upgrades.
A lot of upgrades, and then suddenly now you've got shoulder buttons that are doing different things. They might be drilling, it might be changing the environment.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times, because we weren't playing it single player all the way through, we were chopping and changing between each other.
Yeah, it was either every death or every save room or something like that.
And every time I got the controller back, there was a couple of minutes of trying to kind of figure my way back into the controls, and sometimes I'd accidentally use the right stick to aim, and that's the change weapon. That's a minor niggle, because the game has so many added mechanics that the Metroids don't have.
Yes, it
needs to have that, and in all, it is laid out really well in a really playable way.
Yeah, I liked the fact that they utilised both shoulder buttons.
Yes.
Whereas, like, the older games like Super Metroid, well, there wasn't 2 shoulder buttons, so you just had one. Whereas this time around, you could have it completely bound to the drill or that sort of weird scanny thing.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to, like, stop to select those weapons.
Yes.
It was like you had to stop to select your main, like, blaster.
Yeah.
And I liked that, because if you ran up to a wall, in classic Metroid fashion, if you're already a fan of the game, you know that you have to just bash every wall, every block to see if you can get there.
If it looks like a dead end, it probably isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And if you had to stop to then go, oh, let me get my drill out, like, it just adds that little bit of extra delay.
Yeah.
Whereas this time, because both shoulder buttons were utilised, it was just so natural to run up to a wall and then press one. If that didn't work, press the other. If that didn't work, well, then move on.
Yeah.
Rather than stopping, selecting one, trying it, stopping, selecting another and trying it. It was nice.
There was also, when we get into the kind of user experience of the game, the quality of life, there was a really nice difficulty curve in there.
Oh, yeah.
And it eases you in really nicely at the start, and it ramps up. There's definite steps, and suddenly you notice it's got harder.
Yeah. Well, there was the turning point for us, wasn't there?
There was a definite moment to go, whoa, this has just got difficult all of a sudden.
We walked into one room, and I think that was where those sort of like sandworm-looking things were like flying from the ceiling, like from one hole to another.
It looked like the thing from June.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that kind of thing. And then I think that might have even been the same room with the Michael Jordan zombies. They're like slam dunk. So they're stood there.
The slam dunkers.
Yeah, they're stood there like hunched over, and you think, oh, they're only going to be slow.
Yeah.
And this scared the absolute life out of us, because we walked up to
the first one, I walked up to with a drill. I was like, oh, this will be funny. They're going to be slow like zombies.
Yeah, it looked like a zombie.
No, they're 28 days later zombies.
Yeah,
they're running and jumping.
Yeah, you like backflipped over your head and tried to slam dunk your face. And if you're up a ledge, you're not safe. Because if you're on the edge of the leg, they literally slam dunk you. Like, they run and slam the hands down. And
that leads really nicely to how it's created, the atmosphere and the uniqueness of each area. I've heard some criticisms of this game before we played it, that the map feels too derivative of each section, and it's hard to know when you've moved to a new zone. It doesn't feel like there's any real progression in the map. I would totally disagree with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that.
There was areas where you've changed the environment. The look is completely different. The colours have changed, much like Super Metroid, or even the original Metroid.
Yeah.
The music changes, and it's going to change the entire feel.
Yep.
And the enemies you're facing have changed. And that area with the zombies, the Michael Jordan zombies, as you call them, had a real sense of fear. it was almost like suddenly we'd stepped into like a Resident Evil style game.
It was. Yeah, there was a big turning point, wasn't there? And it was like, okay, now I need to be on my toes here.
Piles of bodies in the background art and stuff, and it's like this has become really creepy.
Yeah.
The music changes to give you that sense of foreboding again, and it for me, those changes and those progressions really added to the whole experience in a really enjoyable way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then there's the bosses.
Yes, and in true like Super Metroid fashion, and later as well, once you sort of went down an alleyway and you could hear the music changing and everything like that, and then it was like, okay, I can go left or right. And then if you chose the right one, you ended up in the save room first, and then you full well knew that the next door was going to be a boss. And if I remember rightly, I'm pretty sure each boss had a red door to sort of signify you're here.
And actually, like the junction, as it were, before you entered, there was a clear thing of there was something in the background that was the same every time.
Yes.
Like a big creature that you couldn't get to.
Yeah.
And then you can go left to a save room or through the red door to the boss.
Yeah, definitely.
And the bosses, again, added that perfect balance of being hard, but just on the edge of doable. They might have a pattern that's familiar, like these games tend to do.
Yes, yeah.
But they're difficult enough you might die a couple of times.
Yes.
Or be right on the edge of dying and
then just make it.
And that's really satisfying.
And the curve was good, like, so they weren't all the same. Like, they slightly got a little bit harder. I would say the one that I did that was memorable was that big guy that's almost indestructible, but you have to shoot like his little.
It looks like he's got a Hoover.
Yeah, he's got a big Hoover, and you've got to shoot him in the hair cap thing that he's got on, shower cap. And he was a little bit predictable. He like kind of shot 3 things out of the top, and then he shot like 2 missiles underneath, and you could just pretty much do the same pattern to get through the whole boss. I was kind of expecting it to change halfway through. However, that was like maybe the 2nd or 3rd mini boss.
Yeah.
So I reckon as it progressed, it's going to make you feel comfortable, like, yeah, I know, and then it's going to change it up halfway through, maybe when 50% health or whatever, then you'll get screwed. But I really enjoyed the bosses because they weren't too hard to start with. Some games they just hit you right in the face straight away, and it kind of puts you off wanting to progress because you think I'm only at the start and
it's already too hard.
And it's too hard. Whereas like you said, you might be making it out with a little bit of health, enough that when you've killed the boss you get all the health back, and then it's like, okay, great, now I know there's going to be a power up down the corridor.
I'm going to get better. The thing I'll say that as we were playing this game on Twitch, we said it's Super Metroid on steroids.
Yeah.
Which it really does feel like. And it takes the Metroidvania idea of maps and getting lost to a whole new level.
Oh, yeah.
And you follow me on it. There is a huge amount of directions in which you go, and you keep going down this rabbit hole, and you're trying to remember that I've gone past 5 doors I've not gone through, and I'm still going. But then to add another layer of complexity onto that, you get a power-up in which you can now start changing the environment around you. And that's either it will change blocks into blocks that become destructible, or platforms you can jump on, or will change enemies into things that will destroy the environment for you.
Yes, instead of damaging you.
Yeah, so suddenly it's not just the map that's difficult to remember or abilities that you'll get to be able to traverse different parts. There's now also, you can actually change parts of the map to perhaps progress through a wall that you couldn't, or up to a ledge that you couldn't reach. So it's like there's a whole added level of complexity which makes this game infinitely more playable for a longer period of time.
And one thing we didn't utilize enough, especially like on that point, was the map. There is a map.
There's a map.
There is a map, and it does show you, like, it kind of shows you, okay, we didn't go up there, but like it's not capped. There's no like ceiling part there, so that must have been an up that we just haven't been through yet, because the map sort of unfolds as you progress. So you can kind of gauge where you need to go back to, or if you do have a power up that maybe you couldn't progress in a previous zone, well, if you utilize the map enough, then you could probably work out, okay, I need to go there. Whereas we were just so like hyped, let's keep going, and then we were like, where have we been? I don't know, just keep going. So I think if we were going to sit down and play it like again, then we'd probably utilize that map more. So I can't say that's a criticism really, but it's really wide. Like you said, it takes Metroid onto like another level, at least for how we were playing.
I mean, it's quoted around 6 hours, is it?
I think it's something like 6 to 12, depending on like your play style.
I would say, in truth, it's closer to that 12 from what we've seen.
Yeah.
It feels like it. And if you wanted to really max it and get most of the power-ups and really explore the whole map.
Yeah.
You've got a good 12 hours gameplay.
Definitely, and we're the kind of people that like want to complete each area. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I want to see it all.
Yeah, exactly. We don't just skip past and speed run it. Like that's not our thing.
And talking of that, it's not a real area of gaming that I'm interested in, but there is actually a speedrun mode.
Yes, right at the
built
start
into
of the game. Yeah, I like that, actually. Yeah.
Because Metroid and Super Metroid and their family of games are games that have been speedran quite a lot.
And the original Metroid and onward, I think, but definitely the original used to give you a different ending of the game depending on how quickly you completed it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you actually got different like Samus pretty much, I mean, it started losing some of her clothes towards the end of the game, depending on how quickly you got through it. But that's pretty much kind of a nod at speedrunning.
Yes.
So for this to have an actual speedrun mode is great for those that love speedrunning, because we haven't used it, but I imagine it times you whatever and gives you more depth at the end of it to say, how many enemies you killed and whatever. But that's something for you speedrunners out there.
Yeah. So for me, it's a game that I massively enjoyed, that I'm definitely going to jump back into because I want to see more of it.
Oh, yeah.
And that I'm excited for the sequel.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to go buy this game as soon as I can find a physical copy for the Switch.
Yeah.
At a reasonable price, that is. I'm definitely going to try and pick this game up. And hopefully they release number 2 as a physical, because at the minute it's digital only.
Yeah.
But number 2 is out on every console.
It's a shame that it's digital only. I understand why the small publishers do that.
Yeah.
But I imagine a physical copy will come.
Yeah, it must do. If the first one had one, then the second one must do, because it's got a bit of a cult following, hasn't it?
Yes, it does. So, anyone that's into this genre of games is going to have enjoyed this. It's more than just a nod at Super Metroid. It is Super Metroid on steroids.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing with the sprites and everything in the game. Like, it looks fantastic. And the actual worlds, I know you said some people were complaining about there's no sort of differentiation between zones, but I really think there are.
Yeah, massively.
Like, if you're paying attention, because everything changes. I mean, there's rooms where literally one whole room where it's just a stack of 1,000 bodies.
Yeah.
Like, that is not, you never see that again.
No.
That's like a passing zone, which is like, it really hits you as to like, whoa, where am I? What's happened here? And then you've got like, you see the big floating head person, which, no spoilers, and we haven't really got far enough to see what she's going to do, but we've got some ideas.
Yeah.
It's so good. It looks brilliant. The art style is amazing, and the animations are really nice. They're fluid. Nothing's jarring. Nothing looks a bit sort of out of place. And when you kill something, especially a boss, you get a really cool like spray splatter effect of particles coming out of them. I just think it looks perfect. It all sort of tallies up into such a nice package.
So, who is it for? Is it just diehards, Metroidvania diehards, or is this game for just more casual players?
I would say it's for everybody, because there's difficulty modes, isn't there?
Yep.
I would say it's 100% for the diehards.
Yep.
For those that love Castlevania, Metroidvania games, for sure. Like anyone that's into those, that like a bit of punishment if you want the harder difficulty, or if you're into speedrunning, whatever. For those that are a bit more casual, that maybe have never played a Metroidvania game, this is a really good one to get into.
Definitely.
Because it is all so good. Like, the controls work so well. It's not as difficult as, say, Super Metroid or the original Metroid, where you really have to get your timing perfect. The hit markers have to be like absolutely pixel perfect.
And
like,
jumping has to be dead on.
Exactly. So like, I think this is a good one to see if you like Metroidvania style games. And if you don't, well, then but if you do, you might find a real gem here.
And it is 5-6 years old now. You can pick them up pretty cheap. It's a nice entry point to this genre of games. I picked my copy up for £8. Physical copy on the PS4. So it gives you a good idea of where you can get into this game.
Definitely.
Probably around £10 to £15 is the price you'll averagely see it at.
Yeah, I think at least on the eShop on the Switch, I think it's around that sort of £14 mark.
So it as a cheap entry point into the genre, fantastic. And if you're just too excited to wait for Metroid Dread to come, this is a great way to bide some time.
Scratch that itch. Yeah, that's it. Satisfy that urge, because this is a cracking game, and it's more than worth 15 quid.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
So that about sums it up. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe wherever you have found this video. We are 128KB, and the best place to find us is, of course, on our website, 128kb.co.uk. So that was Axiom Verge. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.